Hi, my name's John Petty, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Growing Up in Flip Flops. This episode I've entitled Lessons Learned. I'm going to tell you stories of two different dates that I went on while I was in high school with two different young ladies. Their names aren't important. One of them may recognize the story if they hear this, but the other probably won't because they wouldn't have been aware of it. Let me start off by saying that I am a little bit of a prankster. The first story will illustrate that. Throughout the year at our school, they had multiple dances. It wasn't simply just limited to homecoming dance or the prom. I asked a girl that I was dating to attend to a dance and told her that I'd be taking her out to dinner. So she got all dressed up, wonderful dress, everything, and thought that I was going to be taking her to the nice restaurant in town. Well, I picked her up at her house, drove her to the local McDonald's. And we're there in the parking lot. She looks at me and says, "What are we doing here?" And I said, "Well, this is where we're going to have dinner." She just stared at me for a few moments and then said, "You better be kidding, because this is not what I expected." And I said, "No, we're going to go to McDonald's." She said, "If you think this is some kind of a joke or you think it's funny, it's not. You better get real serious real quick." And it looked like if I continued this prank, my evening was not going to be fun. So I said, okay, I'm sorry. And we pulled out of the McDonald's parking lot and took her to a nice restaurant, and everything was fine from there. Well, the second half of that story was I asked her out for another dance. We were obviously still dating after that little episode. It was prom, so I had rented a tuxedo. I had gotten a corsage for her and had reservations at a nice restaurant. I pull up to her house. I'm holding the corsage container in my hand, come to the door, ring the doorbell. Door opens, and there is my date standing in a bathrobe with slippers on and her hair in curlers. And as soon as she sees me, she lets out a yell, says, "Oh my God, I didn't remember it was tonight." My heart sinks. I've got a dinner reservation. I've rented this tuxedo. I've paid for a corsage. And here, it's all for naught. We're not going to go out because she's not ready. And it would obviously take her a fair amount of time, and we'd probably miss the dance altogether for her to get ready. I'm standing there. My jaw must have been on the floor. And then she whips off a wig. Her hair was a short page boy cut so she could do this. Opens up the bathrobe, and there she's in her dress for the prom. All she had to do was put a brush through her hair a couple times and slip out of the house slipper she was in and put on her shoes. And she just looks at me and she said, "Gotcha. You want to play tricks? I'm going to get one back on you too." So this was her little way of getting back at me for pulling my McDonald's for dinner stunt with her a couple months earlier. She had obviously been planning this, and she got me good. She got me real good. The lesson that I learned from that was simply, if you're going to play a prank on somebody, you better expect it to come back at you equally as hard or maybe even harder. I would say she got me harder than my McDonald's for dinner stunt. But that's one of the lessons I learned then. The second lesson that I learned, this was a little bit later. For some reason, I had asked this girl to go to a dance, and she had accepted. I really wasn't dating her or anything like that. But the night of the dance, I was standing somewhere in my kitchen, probably moping or being a hangdog around the place. But I was dressed in my suit, and yes, this is a time when you dressed in a coat and tie to go out to a dance, a high school dance. Well, my mother came up to me and said, "What's the matter?" And I said, "I really don't want to go to this dance with this girl. I made a mistake asking her. I should have never asked her. I really don't want to go with her." And that's when my mother's back straightened up, and I got the infamous finger in the face that both my mother and my Aunt Carolyn were wont to do with me. And my mother made very, very clear to me that I was going to follow through on asking that girl to a dance. I was going to go to that dance, and I was going to show that girl the best time of her life. I was not going to be mopey or anything like that around her. I was going to make her feel like a queen and the most special person in the world and the most beautiful girl at the dance. And I was going to be happy that I was with that girl for that night. And my mother said, "It doesn't matter if you never go out with her again, whatever. Tonight, she is going to be the most special girl at that dance. And if I find out that you were in any way disrespectful or did not let that girl know how happy you were to be on this date with her, you're not going to be happy with what's going to happen to you." My only response, "Yes, ma'am." And I went to the dance. I was not mopey. I was just genuine smiles. I had a wonderful time. I'm glad I went on that date. I'm glad I took that girl to the dance. No, I didn't go on another date with her or anything like that. The lesson that I learned from that is when you make a promise to somebody, you fulfill it. You fulfill it even if you don't want to. Basically, stand by your word. I had asked that girl out, and I wasn't going to stand her up. My mother was going to have no part of that. That's a couple really good lessons to have learned. Do somebody dirty, be careful. You should expect that it's probably going to come back at least that level to you, or maybe more. And secondly, when you make a promise to somebody, in this case just simply something as simple as asking somebody out on a date, you follow through with it. Even if it pains you, you follow through with it. I saw the girl from the second date at a recent high school reunion, and she was very, very pleasant, all smiles. "Hi, John, how are you?" Everything like this. Obviously, I wasn't mopey on that dance date that I took her out on, and she had obviously a pleasant memory from it. I'm glad that my mom got in my face and taught me a very important lesson that I still carry. When you make a promise, follow through with it. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode.